There
Yep,
it is.
now we're
I
good.
see it now. Hello and welcome to the Weird Science Marvel Comics podcast. This is the weekend edition, is what we're going to call it, that we're going to do.
350.
Yes, we're going to be doing this because there's a lot of books out and we want to cover some of the smaller books as well. Now, this week it's going to be a little different because we decided this past episode to do a lot of number ones. And they weren't really that great. They were okay. But because of that, we ended up skipping 4 of the big books of the weekend and books that we have continued to cover. So we decided we're going to start this weekend one. But
make a comeback.
This is a little switcheroo. Usually we will do the bigger books on a Wednesday night, and then we'll come back on the weekend for the smaller ones, maybe even cover some that we normally wouldn't. We'll see.
Maybe the lapsed ones will peek back at.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Something like that, something that me and you can catch up, kind of go. And we're going to also do things a little bit different. But first, I'll tell you, you can find us on Twitter at WS Marvel Comics. But I'm also going to give out an email address. And to change things up, we want this weekend show to be a little bit different than the other show. So we're actually going to take some email, something that we may yell about later. We may get upset that we do that. But yes, here is the email address. It's very easy if you are familiar with the other DC Comics podcast email, because it's pretty much the same, but this is Weird Science Marvel Comics at gmail.com. So it's pretty easy. Again, Weird Science Marvel Comics at gmail.com. And what I like about having these two shows and having the weekend one is you can listen to the Wednesday show, get mad at us, and then email and yell at us on the weekend. So the weekend can be where you yell at us, things like that. But also, we're going to do a little bit of news for this other extra show. And so I'm going to start that off with the news of the week, starting with Conan coming to the Marvel Universe big time. Marvel Comics wasn't going to let this chance go by. Now that they've reacquired the license, the classic barbarian character Conan, they're bringing him to the Marvel Universe during the Avengers No Road Home storyline starting in March by Al Ewing, Mark Waid, and Jim Zub, with art by Sean Azaksky and Paco Medina. And I think this is nonsense. I really don't.
Too. Yeah, when I found it right away earlier in the week, I just responded to with 2 words like, "This is dumb."
Yeah. I mean, why do this? You're bringing Conan back. Just keep him by himself for a while. Keep him in his whole deal. But yeah, they want to kind of push that.
That's way more appealing to me than bringing him over and dealing with Iron Man. Let's say, you know?
No, I'm looking forward to the Conan books. I'm not looking forward to this. And I'll tell you, I'm not really looking forward to Avengers No Road Home either. We'll be talking about an Al Ewing book tonight. We'll be talking about a Mark Waid book tonight. Jim Zub, I can't stand. He treated me like a jerk online, so I will never like him. Al Ewing has blocked us, so I shouldn't like him either.
We think for somebody we follow, possibly.
Yeah, and Mark Waid, I just don't really like in general, which happens to go hand in hand with the Doctor Strange book as well. But yeah, those 3 are really not my favorite guys. So I'm not going to say that I am excited to read that. And I actually made a pretty much a commitment in my mind to never read or cover a Jim Zub book again in my life. And I might have to stick with that.
It's good. He's only what's he doing right now?
He does Champions was his big one, but he was also doing a bunch of things non-Marvel as well that I have just stayed away from. He does the D&D books, I believe at IDW. Recently co-writing the Rick and Morty / Dungeons and Dragons book, I think it was.
I didn't know he was doing that.
That's in my wheelhouse. I'm out. I'm not dealing with him. He was a jerk to me. I mean, a real jerk.
I like to peek at that Rick and Morty book sometimes. Because, you don't get a whole lot of the show, apparently. Anymore.
No. They take 7 years between, seasons. But that book's weird. And recently, and in fact, over at the Patreon, which we don't mention a lot on this, but I'll mention it. If you want to support us for this podcast and the DC Comics podcast and get a lot of other shows, including pop culture stuff, comics that just aren't just DC as well, you can go over to patreon.com/weirdscience. And why I'm mentioning it is I have an other review show, and I have a review coming up of the Pickle Rick issue. They had a one and done Pickle Rick issue.
Okay, one and done. That's not
and
bad.
It pretty much is the exact episode of the show, but with odd changes that make it worse. It's really weird. It was really odd. But
some of the weirdness to that comic is just like the voices are a big appeal to the show. You find out when you're reading,
and then you don't
book.
have it. You don't have poopy butthole. You have here continuing. It all starts when the Scarlet Witch enters the Hyborian Age and continues when the Avengers take their fight to the Queen of the Night. Reads Marvel's announcement. Again, we're talking about Conan in Avengers No Road Home, I believe, issue number 6. And it says, and while Conan and the Avengers will fight together, the question remains, whose side is Conan really on? The story starts in Avengers No Road Home number 6. So I was indeed right.
Take a guess and say he's not on the Avengers side at first, and then ultimately
will
be on the Avengers side. Yeah,
it just seems weird. And with the timing of it, it's like, okay, let's get going. Oh, how many issues have you got? Well, we're done 5 so far. We got those in the can. We're figuring out, oh, well, number 6, you should add Conan in because we just got the license. It just seems weird. The next deal and the second and last story is Unstoppable Wasp number 4. Pushed back 4 weeks. Marvel Comics Unstoppable Wasp number 4 has been pushed back 4 weeks to a new January 30th, 2019 release date. The 4th issue by creator Jeremy Whitley and Gururu was originally solicited for January 2nd. And why I even put this here and mention it is these are the type of books that will probably be featuring on the weekends, like Unstoppable Wasp and things like that. I like the 2 issues I read. I was kind of into it with Agent of Girl.
Yeah,
that's great.
Girl.
Along with this, number 5 has also been pushed back, going from February 6th to February 20th. And the publisher gave no reason for these changes, which they often don't. They just kind of change it. It's probably art deal. Gururu probably had some issues with the art, or maybe they had to change something with the issue itself. But we'll never know, and we'll have to wait for that. But yeah, I enjoyed the first 2 issues. It's a cute little.
I like the art team on the book.
Yeah, I love the art.
Isn't that just one of those they went mini? No, not mini. Oh, mini.
Yep. Yeah, they announced it, and when people, oh man, Unstoppable Wasp, that didn't work before, and they said, well, it's just a mini, and then so, oh man, you just want it to be a mini now because it's an ongoing, and then it went back to a mini. It just keeps going back. It's like Winter Soldier. Same thing happened with that. A bunch of these end up. We had Sentry, which I don't know if they've ever actually fully said that is over, because we had like ongoing. Then it was going to be mainly was ongoing with Jeff Lemire just doing the first 5, and now it's just kind of sitting there. I have a feeling
with a pretty cool ending that happened. Yeah. We'd like to see some more.
Just flies off. I have a feeling we are not going to see that for a while if we do. Even in that. Yeah. The ending was almost like the end of the Matrix when Neo just flies off.
Yeah.
And that it's just out there for whoever wants to get involved. But we're going to start with the books that we're going to talk about tonight. We have 4 books. They're pretty much the bigger books that came out this week and the fresh start stuff. Starting with, usually we have ended with Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah.
I just want to get it over with.
Get it done with,
Let's get it done with, because we're going to start with that. You go with that, Brandon.
All right. Well, forgive me if this makes little sense, my blurbs here, because these are, what I was writing, and I was passing in and out of consciousness while doing some of these. So Uncanny X-Men number 4, written by Matthew Rosenberg, Kelly Thompson and Ed Brisson, art by Pepe Perez.
Yep.
And Rochelle Rosenberg. Uncanny X-Men resumes its weekly mess of a story, and while there's nothing wrong with using politics, religious, or racial undertones to tell a story, it can't be all the story is about or the sole reason it exists. Even worse when the story you're telling seemingly drifts between all these aforementioned issues without focusing on any single one of them with any weight. It plays out like an eye-rolling after-school special, if they still do those.
No, I don't even know if they do. I don't think they do. There's too much Dr. Phil on it.
Yeah, nobody has cable anymore.
No.
Hopefully the flagship X-Men title eventually moves past all this and does something interesting one of these weeks, but I'm quickly losing all hope.
Yeah, the problem with this is Uncanny X-Men comes back. We're at issue, part 4, obviously. It's 4. We have it weekly, very weekly, as we joked before. But with this whole book, to me, number 1, it's not fun.
No.
Number 2, it's just the way that, and maybe it's because it's a weekly series and, you know, they're kind of space. It just doesn't feel big. It doesn't feel like a grand return of a book that it should feel like. And I
think it's a lot to do with the characters they're featuring too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these are some of the core X-Men, but a lot of the characters that end up getting featured in every issue, I don't at least care about, you know, they don't interest me in any way. And I feel like we've had the same conversation in this book for 4 issues now between the 2 different teams.
Yep. And they have the teams separated. They have these new guys and girls, and they're not featuring them either. At points, I think they're not featuring them enough, so I can't get a grasp of who and what they are. But then this issue, they're a little too much because they're, you know, whining and complaining to the point where I hate them. I actually, these new characters, and you have like Glob there, who's supposed to be, you know, how can you hate him? But by the end, I'm just like, I don't care for him either.
Yeah.
You know,
and even that second team of the young kids don't even all agree on what they
No, that's what I'm saying. And so the other, you have Kitty Pryde, who we get a glimpse of again, finally in this issue, but she's captured.
You see,
so you don't get her.
Everybody.
What's Bishop been doing? He, you know, all these others are just in the background.
Shot a dinosaur's leg off.
Yeah. And so with that, I just am not having fun. Then you have, you know, Nate Gray, the X-Man, who's pretty much Jesus.
With a twist.
He's here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Nate Gray is Jesus with a twist.
Yeah. So you have this going on. You do go and you do see Apocalypse. You do see Kitty. And, you know, that kind of gets a little bit exciting. But this whole idea of, you know, Magneto and Angel, where you start off and the X-Men look to be dead, which you know right away that it's some sort of mind control.
They're pros at avoiding death in this blown up mansion. They've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah. So they go, they trick them, and one of the big things is like, hey, did you see Angel? He didn't even blink an eye. And they do show him specifically, like, he calls us home, and they fly off.
Here's some of my problem, because I know enough about the X-Men to know this, is Angel, every time there's, you know, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, turns into Archangel. So this is basically just a play off that. And something they've seen before. So I don't know why they're just totally shocked.
Yeah, and what's funny is I don't have the X-Men background you have. So seeing that and that being played out to you is kind of old hat. You're like, oh, here we go again. You know, there's Angel. But to me, it's somewhat new. And it's not that exciting. You know, it's just there. I'm like, oh, come on. I don't know what I want specifically from this book, but I do know that I wanted some fun.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you, these characters, I think the intent and design of them is supposed to be fun. I don't even think that's fun.
No.
Like Bearded Magneto and Omega Red looks like just a monstrosity.
Yeah.
Like
and you know what's weird about old Magneto is it just reminds me exactly of the Multiple Man series, the mini series where we had Old Man Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
where he looks just like him. So we just came off of that. But with this story, you have that whole thing with you know, Jamie Madrox, that's pushed aside a little until the end of this issue. You have this bickering with the new, you know, the new recruit. There's just too much going on, and none of it's
whether to involve Legion or not.
Yeah, Legion's there, and that's the big thing where Legion is warning him about all this stuff that's happening. He's gone completely insane here, and the new recruits are like, you know what? I think that these X-Men who have gone through everything possible, they can't be right. I mean, it's so ridiculous as you're reading it. Now, it may turn out in the end that Legion does end up helping them and the new recruits are right, but only because that's the twist that they're going to kind of shove at us.
And that's what even the new recruits are split about. They're split within their own group about whether to involve Legion or not. But these new recruits,
the nerve that they have to think that the X-Men, you know, they have gone through so many things with this, and you know, Legion's trying to warn them. And in fact, the whole concept is the X-Man was created by Legion during the apocalypse. Like, there's that whole. It's starting to get a little convoluted for me, being a new reader. I can follow it. But again, it's just
he's come from some timeline that Legion created that was supposed to be like dead and not exist anymore, but he's snuck through to now, and he's trying to stop all this mutant nonsense and war and
so
everything.
you have where X-Men is kind of, he's Jesus. He is, and basically, like,
I mean, the cover is Jesus,
and even to the point where he's like, he ends up using his, I mean, he is a mega level power. It's even spelled out here, where he ends up being able to pretty much mind, telekinesis to everybody on the planet. And they even say, even the professor couldn't do that, but he's doing this, and basically says, listen, in 7 days, the world's gonna, it's so much
the
Jesus.
Creation story.
I'm like, all right. So, and what he wants to do is end up being like, okay, we're gonna fix things. Mother Earth needs to be helped. Hey, you guys go over there, Omega Red and Blob, you go and shut down these oil rigs and things like that. And you're getting the idea of like, what is justice? What's, it's just crazy. You also have the Meg there, the giant shark jumps out. And even that, where they're throwing people off of this oil rig and they're going to, blow it up and get rid of it. And this giant shark jumps out of the water to eat them. And it's not fun.
No,
it's just like, what is going on?
Well, I can't tell. Does this shark actually eat anybody? Because
there's a guy in its mouth.
Like he's got at least two.
Yeah, one looks like chopped in half, and one is in the mouth. But then they come and freeze them, and and even
this is also like a Meg, right? A megalodon.
That's what it's the Meg. Yeah. It is the Meg. So it just my eyes rolled so much. Then so you have that.
X-23 wants to stab it.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. The dialogue and where this is losing me the most, really, I said about not having fun, but also I'm just not getting any concept that they really care about these characters. You have X-23, the one the character I know the most in this and every issue.
You enjoy the most.
I'm gonna stab that. No, just a little. And whoever we said we were trying to figure out who wrote each issue, whatever. I don't care anymore.
I feel like just it's not forever since that book came out. Like
I think that's next week too. So we'll have that. Yeah, but that's my favorite character. It's one of my top 3 Marvel characters, and all she is in this book. I want to stab it. Can I stab it? And it just goes on from there. And everybody's, you have, hey, I'm going to send you back to the Ice Age. Oh man, that's awful. Workshop.
I swear we used that joke last issue, which means somebody new was writing this issue, and they
thought it too.
Yeah, they didn't talk about the jokes they were going to write.
It's not good. And so while this is going on, like we said, the new recruits are back at the mansion. They're fighting over whether or not to let Legion go. That's going to cause trouble. And then Glob goes to talk to Jamie Madrox, finds him in the bar, and this is like the weirdest ending.
I thought I was missing pages.
I'm telling you, he just goes there and he says, "Hey, I knew I'd find you there." It's kind of, hey, Jamie's kind of a lush there, and he's drinking it. And basically, it's this: we need your help. No, come on, we need your help. No, we really need your help. Okay.
Yep.
It just
to be continued.
Okay. If you put it like that, no. Come on, Jamie. Fine, but if I die, it's on you. I'm like, really? And basically, his big thing as is Legion. He doesn't want to get anything involved with Legion after what Legion has done to him. Possessing his mind and then creating all of these duplicates and things like that. So he has a reason to want to get out. But before, he showed up yelling and screaming about, Kitty Pryde and things like that. They still haven't found her. You would think that he still want to be involved in at least finding her, even if the future that he was trying to check, whatever. But it's just, please no, come on, okay. And then ends. And so you have just this issue. It's the worst one, I think, that we've had.
I thought so too. I didn't like it at all.
It seems like it's really veering off to not really being anything I want to read, which is a shame because it comes out weekly.
I know.
And so I when we had this, and we have to talk about it on the podcast. So obviously when it's coming out, it's weekly. I'm like, oh, here we go. Weekly books and me they never match up.
No,
they
don't
never do well for me.
Unless it's ironically, I enjoy them, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we had some fun at the DC with the Batman and Robin Eternal. You get Bane skipping to my Lou and things like that. But the problem being is a lot of times these, and with 3 writers as well, you start getting a little inconsistencies between the writers. You said, like Iceman, maybe that was Bobby's, line there might have been a reused one, which I don't know. Also, if you start getting storylines like the bickering of the newer recruits, you get stuck with them every week for a while. Things drag out, and it really is. This should be a home run. This book coming out, it should be just get, especially since you're doing this weekly deal, to get to what will be the ongoing. Just have some fun for a little, but yet it is pretty much the greatest hits that aren't so great here of the X-Men, which continued this issue. So, and I agree with you as well. The art isn't the greatest either.
No,
and so that's really not even saving it. But yeah, what did you give it?
I gave it a 4.
I'm with you.
Like I said,
I'm going to go 4.5. I'm going to be positive.
Story-wise and art-wise, there wasn't much I took out of it. Really having fun with, and there's not much reason for me to continue it. Like, I feel like now we're going to get back into Multiple Man, who's kind of dominated a lot of the story already anyway. So we're just going back to some more of that. And that's something I really look forward to after reading that miniseries, which you know how it ended.
We weren't very big on the ending. We were big at the beginning.
I just feel like they're doing the Uncanny name wrong after it being stagnant for so long, and then bringing it back with kind of just like a ho-hum story, and with a lot of callbacks. It seems like they're trying to do that, or either missing the mark. For me personally, I don't know how real X-Men fans feel about them, but
the people who are reviewing it's not getting. It's not getting great reviews.
Okay.
So,
keeping up
but again, that doesn't mean that the people reviewing it are big X-Men fans.
Right.
So, my problem is I think they're going with this whole idea. It's a weekly book. And I think that they're falling into the trap thinking that since it comes out every week, you have to have 17 storylines. You don't. You don't have to do that. Just treat it like a regular deal and tell, one coherent story that really means something. Just because characters show up, just because Nate Gray shows up and he's Jesus doesn't mean that that's going to wow us. I need something more than that. And I wish that we could have just had fun and get to know the new recruits and things like that. And also have people like me who don't even know all of the regular X-Men and show me stuff with that. And really the one character that I wanted, besides I said Laura is my favorite, but that the one I wanted out of this was Kitty Pryde. And she's tied to a chair. She's been
off the table,
she's tied to a chair. And Nate Gray does tell her, like, oh, we'll have your, voice will be heard before long. I'm like, oh, God. Please, I just wanted something more than this. It's just not hitting with me. We're going to go to the next book, though. That's a book that hasn't been hitting with us. And I'll tell you, you'll be shocked maybe to hear that I think this is one of the better issues of this series. It's Doctor Strange, by the way. But also the way it falls into it. It's nonsense. So they're really, it's the weirdest thing of being probably the better issue of the 9 that we've read now. But yet, because not getting anything before, this is kind of
probably because it's for the most part a one-shot issue until the epilogue.
Yeah, so it's Doctor Strange #9, written by Mark Waid, art by Jesus Saez. This is not the worst issue of Doctor Strange we have gotten since Fresh Start started, and it may even be the best. But I was still upset after reading it, since we really have gotten little from the series as a whole. It all seems like a stall to get to Legacy issue 400 next month, but I have little faith that Mark Waid will make that worth reading either. And that we have been wanting something to happen in this book. And he was in space until he wasn't. Yep. And he had a duplicate until he didn't. I mean, really, the stuff in space, it's just nonsense. It really was. He went
even in the intro in the beginning. Now it's all glanced over with in one sentence.
Yeah, and while we've been reading this, and if you're a fan of this series, you probably disagree, but the book just doesn't seem to have any focus. You had this idea of going into space, which in my mind, all that was to find that Infinity Stone, that one little part, and then try to build something around and make it seem like something, because it all of a sudden, he didn't have magic, was going into space to find it, and then all of a sudden he had magic.
Yep.
And I mean, really, a
Using
lot of
it left and right,
yeah,
no
a lot of the stuff
problems.
must have happened off panel because I didn't see it. And yeah, then he comes back to Earth, and Casey, this girl that he accidentally left behind, taking a memory out. It wasn't really his fault, but she ends up becoming the duplicate Doctor Strange, involved with more. It ended up by the end
seemed fine with
meaning
it all.
nothing. It really just everything was like, okay, that was weird. So
Yep.
we go into this, and I didn't know if we were going to start, a new deal. We did have a kind of a cliffhanger that I thought there was going to be a big
Just
to
a
do.
guy in a top hat and a shadow is always
Yeah. So I thought, oh, this is going to be good. But this issue feels like more of something that you would get in an annual.
Yeah,
A one-shot deal.
story.
And so this is kind of like a cool down issue before we get to 400, I guess, next month. But you don't need a cool down in a series that hasn't started up.
Yeah.
It's like me telling you, you haven't driven your car in 2 days, but you better lay off it.
Well, you can sum up the first 8 issues of the series in the 2 sentences they give you before this storyline starts, where it says, Stephen Strange has returned from his ventures across the galaxy, but the most fearsome threats are always close to home. Like, that's the 8 issues we've read so far.
Yep, that's 8 issues. So, and again, as a one shot, if you haven't read Doctor Strange and you really, really want to get an issue, this is actually okay, because this goes even back in time, and it's pretty much the history of Bleecker Street and why Doctor Strange will protect it with his life. That's all it is. It's basically there is
from anybody, demons or just regular people.
Yeah, they want to gentrify the neighborhood at first. They're going to end up coming, and they want to buy up the neighborhood and change it. And Stephen doesn't want to do it. And you're led to believe through this whole thing, while you see through the years all the time he saved people on the street. There's been times where, these bad guys were moving in to tough arm people to sell and set fire to the laundry. Stephen went in and saved the guy. You have where he babysits and the little, I'm telling you, the funny thing about this is you are trying to play with the idea that these neighbors aren't quite aware that he is Doctor Strange. But right away, you don't think those kids are going to be telling their grandmother, I was on a unicorn.
I was riding a unicorn puppy that flew me around his house.
Yeah, and I had blocks, and I was using some magic to go. So it ends up being, and in a funny way that I thought Mark Waid could have even made a lot more funny, is the idea that they're having this whole deal, and they end up where these guys who want to buy, pretty much it goes down to Stephen Strange's house after a while, just that, end up releasing Stephen Strange as Doctor Strange. He's in the neighborhood, Satanism, and you get protesters and things like that. So they have a meeting, and they're like, yeah, you know what? This is the village, and the best is like, I saw the Hulk leaving Europe, the house once. I know you're Doctor Strange. He's like, that's not even the weirdest thing I've seen.
Right.
And so it's funny, you get this idea that this community loves him because he protects them. He protects them. You even have the one lady who's like, I don't know, maybe we should listen to these tabloid reporters. But even so, it's a nice thing to show. And what ends up happening by the end is this guy reveals himself to be this big demon. They do want the house. They want, Stephen Strange's house, which he then says, listen, I don't want to not say, I'm not selling it because of the secrets in the house. That has nothing to do with it.
Come with me anyway.
Yeah, he says the house can be anywhere. They're on the moon at that point. And he says, why I'm not doing it is because I love the people of the neighborhood. I love the neighborhood. So it's a nice wraparound deal. Again, like an annual, because now we're almost done. And all it does is lead
kills the bad guy. We'll never see him again.
Yeah, he's on the moon.
That was a cool ending, though. I did like how he got rid of him.
Oh, yeah. He ended up taking the house to the moon, opening the door and shoving him out.
Yeah.
I even like the point where he's there and he meets up with this big corporation that wants to buy. And he's like, you know what? You've been strong arming me. You've been, throwing the stuff that I'm a Satanist in the paper. My lawyer has something to say. In walks this huge demon with a briefcase. And they're like, okay. And then they have he's like, you're going to put next day in the paper, you're going to put that you were lying. And they did that. But that leads to this main guy, like we said, showing up and ends up turning into a demon himself. He attacks and just says, I want all the secrets that you have. He's like, the house, I could just move the house. They move to the moon. He kicks him out. The guy can't breathe and he leaves. But then it ends with an epilogue again, which is the only thing you really need to read to go to the next issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
2 pages.
It's the Master shows up, said there's trouble, and basically calls Stephen Master. There you go.
The ancient one.
Yeah, the ancient one calls him Master and says there's something coming down. It's terrible. I need your guidance, Master. And say, oh no. And then you have next Doctor Strange number 400.
See, I don't know if this is the guy that came to his house though the other day. Do you think it was?
Yeah, I think it was. I think. Oh no. You mean the guy, the bad guy?
Top hat, or the guy with the
I
top
don't
hat
know.
at the end with the shadow.
No, I don't think it is. I think that top hat thing, well, we may find out that was just the guy maybe that was trying to buy the house that we were all excited about. Or maybe it'll just go to, because it does start out 10 years in the past, so maybe that'll start out the issue 400, which will be our issue number 10. It's just odd. And this is what's happening in this is I'm getting the idea that Mark Waid doing this book is kind of like, there's been some stuff that at the DC end of things, what comes to mind would be the Batman Beyond book, where you get through a lot of nonsense to end with a cliffhanger that seems interesting. And then you repeat that the next issue. You keep going to get to what seems to be the most interesting part is the last 2 pages where it's, the guy with the top hat, oh my, and then we never get to it. Then in this here, we have the Ancient One calling Stephen Master, and then we'll go, and so hopefully something starts giving in this, because I want to like this book. I want to like Doctor Strange, and like I said, this one is the better issue, but because of what we've got before it just seems weird to have a one-shot like this up until the end, but I'm still going to give it a 6.5. I like the art a lot. So I could even go as high as a 7. It's just the where it's positioned in this series kind of brings me down. But what would you give it?
Yeah, I'm a little higher than you, but I'm not at a 7. I'm at a 6.8.
Okay.
You know, I like the art in this issue a lot, but you know, the art's never really been a problem in this series. The one-shot story was, you know, it was entertaining enough. You know, I got a few chuckles out of it, and the demons look cool. You know, I can say that for sure. But you know, other than that, you need the last 3 pages to go forward in this title. So I can't quite nudge it up to that 7 score.
I am with you, but we're going to go to your quick books of the week. Which are those? Yeah,
we're going to catch up on the Spider-Geddon tie-ins. I haven't mentioned
like
anything
so long
about.
Ago since we've talked anything Spider-Geddon.
Well, this week, all that came out was like Spider-Man guide. Yeah, with every Spider.
I looked through it. Did you look through it at all?
No, I didn't.
I looked through it, and it's, you know, it filled me in on a couple characters at least. So I didn't mind that, but
I don't buy those. Those are kind of throwback to past times. Now Wikipedia exists; it's not really needed, you know. But Spider-Girls 2 will start things off with. That's written by Jody Hauser, art by Andreas Genolette, Jim Charapamlidis. God help me with that last name. And Triona Farrell. Spider-Girls has been a worthy tie-in so far for the most part, at least after the first issue, and compared to some of its counterparts. However, this effort seems to suffer a bit from a lack of story this issue, where not much is done other than introduce a few inheritors into the mix for a little tension. Ultimately, things wrap up when this universe's Harry Osborn turns into a giant spider himself, possibly because of Annie, but we don't go much further than that. Tune in next issue to see if Annie can crack the mystery of these scrolls. Till then, there was some decent art in this issue, but it can basically be safely skipped, and you can grab the final one and jump into the final issue of Spider-Geddon from there. Borrow, basically, for me.
Yep, I would agree.
Yeah, and then the second one is Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider 2. Shannon McGuire is writer, art of Rosie Campy and Ian Herring. And a real bummer of an issue, Gwen comes off as mostly unlikable character, as does this universe's Peter Parker, when they sort of blackmail each other into helping each other out. See, this Gwen Stacy of this universe is better known as the Green Goblin, and she's the only one that can get our Gwen back to Spider-Geddon.
Yeah.
So why does everyone need to be a jerk in order for this to happen?
Oh, they're all jerks. I read this
It's the
twice.
worst issue.
At one point, I was even thinking we were going to put this as a main book. Like, you know, we wanted to do the smaller book, so this would be. Oh my!
This was bad, yeah.
Peter, I just wanted to smack.
Yeah, I'm
right
like, Glenn, please punch him in the face. And
Oh,
she wasn't being much better, even though he was a jerk too.
No, yeah. Oh my God, they're not likable.
Yeah,
they are so. At least it gets you wanting to get the heck out of that world because they are just not likable at all.
Like, fix it on your own and get away from this dude.
Oh my goodness.
The art suffers a lot this issue as well, with most of the characters looking like little people instead of actually teenaged kids. Hard forget on this title, with the hopes of a possible improvement after Spider-Geddon ends.
Yeah. I read this and I was gritting my teeth as I like, why are
forever to read through? There was so much dialogue for just like nothing being accomplished.
It was
the same argument the entire issue.
Yeah, it was tough. Are we ready for my quick picks then? Is that your quick pick?
Is this a down issue of Deadpool?
No, mine is Deadpool #7, Scotty Young writing and art by Nick Klein, and it is a Christmas issue. And when you see it, you can see right away it's Santa and Deadpool on the cover. Basically, you could kind of come up with the idea of what the story would be. A bunch of kids are mad that Santa kind of ditched them, end up pooling their money together to hire Deadpool to go to the North Pole and kill Santa. He goes, he has to fight past Mrs. Claus, ends up seeing that Santa is pretty anorexic. He hasn't eaten in a while because one of the elves has gotten a little too big for his britches. He ended up being kind of the labor union leader of the elves. Yeah. Went a little over the top, ended up kind of outsourcing everything for himself to make money. So you have all that with Deadpool.
Choosing Amazon, huh?
Yeah. Pretty much. Deadpool goes off to get him and, you know, does Deadpool things, ends up saving Christmas, and then at the end ends up jumping on Santa's sleigh and starts throwing presents out and wrecking cars and things like that. He's just throwing presents out. And again, this is a one-shot type deal for the holiday season. And it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. And I think that Deadpool has kind of been this type of book anyway. You know, when I have liked it the most are these one-shot stories. You don't have to have an ongoing story on a Deadpool book. It works just having these things. And especially
small arcs if you do.
Yeah. And especially for, you know, it's the holiday season. It lends itself to do that. I thought that this was pretty good. If you have wanted to get a Deadpool book, I would say buy it. I mean, it's at least good for a borrow to see if you like it. But the problem with this is every time I read Deadpool, it never makes me think that, okay, got to get the next issue. Just go into it and enjoy, you know, what you're getting at that specific time and then go with it.
A laugh, it might help you out.
Yeah. Now I have another quick pick that it's not a Marvel book, but I don't know if you know about it. It's an IDW book. It's Marvel
Spider-Man one?
Marvel Action Spider-Man #1. And I just want to bring it up quick just because around the holidays and things like that, if you do have some younger kids in the house, or you just want to get a pretty fun enough Spider-Man book, it's not in continuity. It's more along the lines of the movie coming out.
Is this the Tom Taylor one or no?
No, this is Delilah Dawson. This is a book that basically has Miles, Gwen, and Peter all together in it without telling an origin, really. They're just kind of there. The whole wraparound story is that they are going to try to get an internship with Tony Stark. So you have Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy are there to interview Tony. And then they have these rabid dogs that kick out. And basically you see Peter jump into being Spider-Man. He goes around. Miles ends up not in the, not in his Spider-Man outfit yet, but he will be. Even the cover has, Gwen and Miles in their Spidey outfits, and then Spider-Man going. So it kind of lends itself that if you go to see the new movie, and maybe just want to have somebody in your family, younger kids or whatever, want to read. It's an all ages book, can go and read just and have some fun with the characters. It's not in continuity. Like I said, it might throw some people off because like I said, right away, they go into this, into this internship thing, trying to get this interview and like, okay, well, here's where we're going to sort you out. Everybody is an Iron Man fan. You sit there. And of course, everybody wants to sit there because they're there to to interview Tony Stark. They're kissing butt. And like, if you're a Captain America fan, you sit there. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, you sit there. And of course, that's where Peter, Miles, and Gwen sit. And then they kind of get, and at one point, Miles disappears. He goes invisible and Peter's confused of what happened, things like that. So
yeah,
it's just a fun little deal. And I see the reviews. The reviews are very mixed. I read it and I had a good time with it. Once you know what's going on and kind of go, that's why I think that it's almost a good thing that it's an IDW book and not a Marvel book, because you can kind of go, okay, it's an IDW. It doesn't have to follow the thing. It's just this Marvel action. They're going to have a continuation of this. They have a bunch of other books, a Black Panther one, an Avengers one. I actually thought it was good. For the first one that came out, I was actually pretty into it. But yeah, for a Christmas gift, if one of your youngins wants a Spider-Man book and you don't think that they would, dig what's going on in the main thing, that's a little too mature, then this is something you can grab. And I think that some people would have fun with it. But we're going to get back to the regular books and get back to it by going to, I believe I'm going here, Venom, right? Venom's the next one. All
Venom, number 9. But written by Donny Cates, art by Ryan Stegman, J.P. Mayer, Frank Martin, and VC's Clayton Cowles. Venom has done some interesting things since all the symbiote God Null stuff has come to a conclusion, but also kind of meandered a bit. This issue seems like a bit more of that than the explosive start we kicked this title off with.
Yeah.
I've never disliked any issue, but I'm also not a patient fella, so slowing things down for so long doesn't always work for me. Anyway, Eddie ventures back to San Francisco here with a sidekick, quote unquote, to visit his old pops. Things happen again, and by the end, bada bing, bada boom, let's do a hit.
Bada bing, bada boom.
But who's asking?
It's so funny. A lot of people were asking me, "Oh, have you read Venom? Have you read Venom?" Because there's a lot of narration, there's a lot of just talking, and the weird thing about this issue is probably about a quarter to a halfway through, I was not really enjoying it. I really wasn't. Like you said, I thought it was a little down. I
felt like it was just something we did already.
Yeah. By the end, though, how it ended, and I'm talking maybe the last, 4 or 5 pages, I was in then. So I did like it. But I do like the idea that he's heading home. We knew that he was. And it does take a long while for him to get home, for him to get involved
as a dog on a leash.
It's very weird.
I felt like I missed an issue.
Yeah, it felt very weird the way he was doing that. But then you get a background of Eddie where, he was involved in an accident that caused his family to go bankrupt. You have all these things with it. His sister died. And that's a good setup because he gets to his father and his father is just a lunatic yelling. Mm-hmm. Now, again, he did show up in the series, end up showing up where Venom kind of just took him there. And then it caused some problems. So he's like, you get out of here, and then the big turning point is him saying like, I know you're upset about, my sister. And he's like, what are you talking about? You don't have a sister. I never had a daughter. And you're like, what is going on? And that's where you start to get the idea. This is not his father. And he goes into the house. The symbiote goes nuts. And we've already been told this is where I didn't mind the dog bit. But the thing was, the symbiote really was kind of brain dead. And I didn't even know, like,
see,
it's weird seeing him as a dog.
I got the idea it's his dad, but he never had a sister, and this is an implanted memory
but I'm
by the
saying
symbiote.
The weird thing about it is just at the end when his, I guess, brother, because he does come down yelling, Dad, what happened? Dad, what happened? And that's where Eddie's like, you just said, Dad, I got to get out of here. And he gets out. But at the end, his brother comes up and says, we have to kill our dad. It's about our dad. We need to kill him.
He looked all beat up, like he whooped his butt.
Yeah, I actually think that maybe the dad is the one who's being controlled by something and something's going wrong with that. I wonder if Donny Cates would switch it around, that whole thing with his sister was an implanted memory would be a little, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this, you have some, classic art where the symbiote ends up being a kind of like a door with teeth at one point, and, going. Good. But it's just, there's not much to it. We're pretty much done talking.
Well, he didn't give Stegman, I'm glad Stegman's back, but he didn't get a whole lot to do this issue other than, draw the symbiote dog, which doesn't do
the
much till he
symbiote dog.
sticks to the doorway.
And then basically a haunted house type deal with people running around and falling. And and even at the point, I did like the kind of combo deal and kind of shows where he runs out in front of a car. Eddie runs out because he's like, I got to get out of here when he sees the kid again, which shocked him the last time he was there. And he goes to run out. And he's like, oh, no. And the car, pretty much it looks like somebody's dead because of him. And he's just like, boy, this is just not good. My father was right. Everywhere I go, there is misery and death. I got to get out of here. But yeah, he kind of goes, he's laying there in an alleyway. And that's when this brother of his comes up. And also, I mean, I guess he could have broken his arm when all this went down, but I don't see where he could have broken that arm. And he shows up with his arm in a sling as if the father has beaten the living crap out of him. His eye is closed, all that. That doesn't look like it happened because I'm going back and looking as what happened with it. The kid kind of stayed free and clear. Everything.
No, it's not from Eddie. I think the dad beat the crap
I think the dad beat the crap out of him as well. I just
Yeah.
don't think that the dad's on the up and up, especially with that whole idea of not knowing he had a sister. I think he's
Or the
there.
makers come to visit him and instructed him to stay the hell away from him.
I get the idea. Maybe this was and the kid looks a lot like the young Eddie as well. So I don't know what's going on. So we'll have to see. It intrigues me at the end. I love Ryan Stegman's art, but like you said, there's not much to go with here. But what he gets, he does well. He does well all the time. He's one of the best artists out there, especially the beginning. The beginning where you have a lot of the narration, but that black and dark background when they're on the bus, that looks great. And then he kind of, I don't know, it kind of seems like a little of it not as good as what we've gotten from Ryan.
Well, I just think he gets bored.
I think so. It's still great. But it's just, this is a book that we usually go through and we're floored every panel. So I'm going to give this a 7. It's one of my favorite books that we do. It's just, this is kind of like a
slow issue,
down issue. We're going to have to see what's going to, what would you give it?
Yeah, I'm under you. I'm going to go a 6. I really like the art, but the story didn't do much for me at all. Kind of, we saw the results of the same thing happening last time Eddie was at his dad's house, just with not the twist at the end with his brother coming back to him in the end. So, that does intrigue me. I want to see what they do. But not much else in the issue other than that.
I'm with you. The next one and the last one that we're going to talk about tonight is probably the best issue of the week. I do like it, and it is Immortal Hulk, and it's Immortal Hulk number 10. I got to get my notes now. I went off my notes trying to find something, but Immortal Hulk number 10,
written by Al Ewing.
Al Ewing, art by Joe Bennett. Immortal Hulk continues to be consistent, and we finally get more of the green door, which leads everyone to hell. I'm still a little foggy on the details of the series, but it's weird. I'm enjoying it. Maybe it's just because now I'm like, the nighttime is his time deal. I can kind of okay, whatever. And it got a little more confusing in that Best Defense issue this week.
It did.
But yeah, this is a good horror comic. There are things in this comic that are just ghastly.
I know.
The Absorbing Man is
Skinny Hulk is
oh my god, Skinny Hulk is awful. His pants is saggy pants.
I'm not trying to criticize anybody here, but I can't look at pictures of anorexic people.
No,
I'm like, gross.
The Skinny Hulk is the worst. But while this is going on, the Absorbing Man is, quote, somewhere else. It seems like he's already kind of in hell, but his body, which I still don't know how, is still
it's
surviving.
Just the drugs they gave him,
I guess,
going off.
And the weird thing is
that animal twitching kind of.
The weird thing about this is you then have
saying, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah. This whole thing. Yeah, he's sorry, and you have the whole thing with Shadow Base, which is there to kill Hulk, stop them, whatever, because they have that sniper, which is the guy that we saw before. I actually didn't realize until later that his hand had turned into a sniper rifle until they said later about his hand.
Too.
Yeah, and they said it later.
Not very clear, I guess.
Later, like 3 pages later, he says, "Break cover and you'll lose your effectiveness. Probably that gun arm of yours too." I'm like, gun arm?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah.
That's news to me.
Yeah. So it's the same guy who made that gun before that we were confused. But yeah, while Shadow Base is watching this and wants to take the shot, and this guy uh, over and over, I got the shot. I want to take it. No, not yet. And yeah, and it's just Hulk pretty much ripping spines out of the Absorbing Man, ripping,
just
guts
apart,
hitting him with it. At one point, ends up using his ball and chain. Yeah, his ball and chain is a skull and his spine. Yeah. And he's just doing that. And you have this guy, I can do it. Hulk's fighting back, but I can take the shot. I got a clear shot. Negative.
And then Legowski makes the worst business decision ever.
Yeah. They do. Well, they do. They have Gamma Force is coming down then, and they're going to try to, save Hulk. He ends up just going nuts, grabbing their ship that comes down and just crashes it. And all heck is breaking loose. I mean, you really have it. So then this guy with his gun arm has cyanide hollow point bullets.
Where does he put those?
I don't know. I guess maybe he eats them and then just forms them in. They are his teeth. But yeah, he shoots the Hulk in the face, right in the eye, and then Hulk pretty much just flips out.
That's when,
that's when he grabs the ship. Langowski's in big trouble. You have a lot of stuff going on. They shoot Hulk in the stomach. While this is there, the whole deal is that the Absorbing Man's body now, which is a half of a head on each side saying sorry, guts coming out, starts running.
No spine or skull.
No, nothing. Just starts running. And then Hulk realizes why. He is running to the point where exactly the Hulk ended up becoming the Hulk, which we knew they were at the base already. He's going to the exact spot. So basically it's, and I can't say I understand it. I don't get this.
He's
going to there to absorb it, though. He does open the door, but I don't understand how the Hulk realizes that's what's going on. And he says he absorbed. Obviously, you see, Hulk. And the best part is they do go with the art pretty well. Joe Bennett's art that Hulk has lost all of his stuff, so he has flappy skin.
Yeah,
it's like when a big
guy lost 400 pounds.
Oh, it's the worst. I worked with a guy who was 600 pounds. He actually got down at one point to like 220. And then ended up getting it all back, which seems to be impossible. But when he lost it, boy, he had a lot of flappy skin going on. And I'm looking at, oh man, that guy died of a heart attack. Surprisingly. But yeah, when Langowski's down there, they're all down. The what's her name is there. The reporter, they had her come down. They're all there. And the Absorbing Man runs off, and he's going towards the spot where Creel is going off to where the exact spot was, where the Hulk became it. And that's where he realizes he's heading toward the bomb site, the Gamma bomb site, Banner's bomb. First time ever. This is all Hulk is kind of saying this as he has bullet holes all through him. And really the worst panel to me of Hulk is when he goes, oh, the green door. I know what he wants. And he's just there. He looks horrendous.
Yeah,
he looks so bad. So he looks like a little dwarf. Is what he looks like.
The second last page is horrific too. Yeah, his face on that second last page. I'm like, get away from me.
Yeah, really. He's just going. So he's going there, and he's like, we got to stop him. You got to stop him. And nobody, they won't let him go, and he can't go. Where
you get the idea, Shadow Base wants Creel to open this.
Yeah, I guess so. I think that what they wanted to do obviously was, and through this, you have this. Can I take the shot? Can you take the shot? And at one point, I actually thought they were talking about shooting Creel just because that was like their experiment gone wrong. I think that Hulk figured it out, that what they wanted, Creel was supposed to absorb all the gamma from the Hulk. I don't think that they knew that the Hulk's father was absorbed into the Hulk. So that's a little bit, a little twist, but he's getting all that. Then to go to the biggest spot of gamma that there's ever been, and somehow absorbing all of that would then open up the green door to hell. I don't know how 1 + 1 equals 2.
Just sends everyone around there as well.
Yeah, and that's what happens. It actually just, the green door explodes, and then pretty much everyone involved in the story is now in hell, it seems. You have even Gun Hand, he's trying, because they have it. And Jackie, the reporter, who, it's so funny to get her there, was just there. They're like, hey, you want to come with us? Why would I come with
Yeah.
you?
She's
I
like, I
don't have
can't be
anything to
part.
do.
I can't tell an independent story if I go.
Yeah, yeah. And they're like,
That's
no,
what
no,
she's
just
all worried
come.
about.
And they go. And yeah, you have all
No, she's
these
in
guys
hell.
there. So you have shadow-based guys, you have the Hulk, you have Gamma, Gamma Flight there. And so that's crazy because they are what Hulk says, we're where we've always been, where everybody's always been. We're in hell. And it just looks like to me that possibly they're playing off of that, this hell is just an opposite version of what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of skyscrapers. It looks like an apocalypse. So I don't know if we're necessarily in hell, or are we in a hellish version of what the earth could have been? I think that we're more in hell, but it just seems weird that you have broken down buildings and things. And then
it's a weird concept. I agree. I'm interested in it though.
We've been waiting.
One of the books, I guess has kind of won me over in the end.
Yeah, it has won me over. Yeah,
I actually kind of look forward to it more than I don't when it pops up. Like I save it for last because I know I'll at least find something I like.
That's what I said. It's consistent. And, it's some people think it's a 10 out of 10. I don't think it's that high, but I'm enjoying it. And I will tell you that I think I'm enjoying it more when we don't have any Banner. I like the Hulk. And even when he's getting shot, even when he's anorexic, I like the issues more with Hulk than without him. And, I like that when we have Hulk, we're not worrying about the night times, his time, and things like that. I really don't need that. That is the least interesting, though I still want to know what that means. But to me, it's the least interesting part of this. And I actually thought by now they were going to have a thing where when he got absorbed, that would kind of absorb the whole deal, and Banner would kind of be on the side for now. But I would give this an 8.5. I really enjoyed it. That's easily my book of the week. What would you give it?
I'm going to give it an 8. Sorry, I'm getting harassed over here.
Yes.
To get apples and water.
Oh, apples.
And my list keeps growing as
as it goes.
I'll be upstairs shortly.
Tell her we are almost done. What would you give it?
Yes, I will be right upstairs. Thank you.
Yes.
I would give it an 8. I really liked it. The art is gross, but in a good way.
Yeah.
The horror vibe is working for me in this Hulk so far, and even though I'm blocked on Twitter, I don't hold it that much against.
No, I'm blocked by him as well, but that was more from me arguing with him.
It's just a decently written book that I can look forward to enjoy. It's not super deep, and there's a few answers I still would like, but I can take what I'm getting for now.
Yeah. Okay, and that's the end of the podcast. My book of the week, and obviously yours, is Immortal Hulk number 10. So we're both.
I think even out of both of them, I don't think we did anything over an 8 in the Wednesday one that I can remember.
So this is definitely the best book that came out this week. Venom's good too, but Immortal Hulk number 10 is the best. I have a list of some of the things that are coming out next week that we'll talk about on one or the other podcast. We're gonna have to decide that. Amazing Spider-Man number 11 comes out. Avengers number 11. Black Panther number 7. If I can get 3 issues in a row that I enjoy, and I'm including last one, I'll say I enjoyed it enough. If we get 3, then maybe we will feature that. This is the thing. This is almost the weekend could be the podcast where things can try to make their way back to the main one on Wednesday. So if anything, it'll show up on the weekend first. Maybe Black Panther can make its way back. I don't know that. We have Fantastic Four Wedding Special number 1 comes out. We have Miles Morales Spider-Man number 1. We have the Spider Force and Spider Girls number 3 each, and Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 3. Yes, we have that. Other things like Best Defense Doctor Strange number 1 comes out. We have the Black Order number 2. I believe that the Best Defense Silver Surfer comes out as well.
Yeah, I think so.
That's not listed there. We have the Black Order number 2 that comes out. Did you read number 1 at all?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either.
Good?
I didn't read it. So
okay.
That's one of the ones that maybe that'll make it to this. Unstoppable Wasp number 3, Typhoid Fever, Iron Fist 1. I'm just going down the list here. Uncanny X-Men number 5, X-23 number 7 that you wondered when that was coming out. So we have a bunch of stuff. So we'll be doing some of those on Wednesday, probably the bigger books, obviously. And then we'll have a couple of the others on the weekend. But that's it. That's the end of the podcast. Again, if you want to email us and talk to us about stuff, you can email us at weirdsciencemarvelcomics@gmail.com. I started that up, and I will wait with bated breath for emails, and we'll read. And just to let everybody know that if you hadn't been listening to our DC podcast, we will read any and every mail. So if you hate us, you certainly can email and tell us, and it will be on the podcast.
Get on.
I do not like to censor stuff like that. In fact, I have a lot of fun when people. But if you're gonna badmouth anybody, badmouth Brandon, not me, because then I might get
from Buffalo. We badmouth each other.
There you go. So that is it. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Nice.
All right.